Welcome back to the Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. I should be going to the gym right now, but instead I wanted to finish up some of the stuff that I was kind of talking on yesterday with the video. And sorry about the editing situation, you guys. That little bit, I don't have the best setup, but it works and it's for free. So, but anyways, I wanted to go over a couple things, but that explosion in space, I feel like I should have got a little bit more in depth with that. So I'm going to cover it real fast and just kind of talk about a few different things. When I first asked for the secrets of the universe, right, I did not use those words. I was 21 years old. I'd already figured out different things, and I was very curious about aliens and stuff like that. Like I've said before, when I discovered what aliens were, I took a backdoor approach that I didn't know who Steve Coyle and stuff was until like 2012. L.A. Marzulli a little bit longer than that, I believe, and stuff like that. So my approach coming up was from a bunch of research, reading, praying to God, and everything else. And so a lot of my stuff has been. But when I first prayed, and when I was 21, like 15 years ago or whatever, I was laying on the floor at a friend's house, and that night I asked, I was like, God, you know, there's dinosaurs, and when we look at the dates, from what scientists say, it goes back millions of years. When I look at the Bible's ages of people, it goes back about 6,000 years. How is this possible? How does it all fit together? And I said, well, I was laying there in the dark. You know, it would sure be awesome if you could tell me this. I just want to know personally how this fits together. But even if you don't, I choose to follow you, and I'll believe on faith. I'll put the Bible over anything else that I hear. And that was the prayer, and he answered it right on the spot. And things started changing within about 2 days. That friend that I was staying with started bringing home some videos. So there were a bunch of Kent Hovind and some other stuff, and started answering a bunch of questions, like right from the start, or right then after I made that prayer. And it didn't stop there. It's been coming in for over 15 years, nonstop, all the time, information after information. And I have been able to shortcut so many different ways where it would take somebody years of research and looking in one area. I get brought in the back door right to the spot that I look, and each time it's in the right order that I need to. There's been many occasions where I would learn something. I was like, it's a good thing I learned that other thing first the other week, because if I didn't, this part could throw me off. But since I know that, this gives me a heads up, and I can see a fault in this, or some of this they're going to have to throw out with this idea. And I would catch these things as God was showing me different things like that. But I see how it works, and I know that one thing follows another, and they're very close in proximity a lot of the ways. All right. So the explosion in space wasn't at a random time that made me think of it. It was very shortly after learning something. Okay. Now, this has to do with the war with God, all right? I know how evil thinks and their ideas, and I've been fighting it for a very long time. Throughout my life, I've seen them, and until you have them by the throat, they think that they can beat you, all right? But there is a plan that evil has that they think that they can beat the armies of God or God himself. All right, this isn't the first time this has happened. At the Tower of Babel, they were going to do the same thing. There wasn't just building a tower in defiance. They were going to storm heaven. You can kind of hear the idea of that story through the book of Jasher. Are there different aspects in there? Like I say, Jasher and Enoch and some of the stuff has been monkeyed with over time. And you can find stories that correlate so much with other biblical stories that what it is filler, all right? If you have very good discernment, you can pick this stuff out and find some of the main story that was there and the truth that goes with that, an overlying truth. Is it something that you can totally rely on all the way through? No, it'll get you off track, so be very cautious. That's why I always tell everybody, read the Bible first, know it very well, and after you do, then look at this other stuff. And when it starts to pull away from what the Bible says, you trust what the Bible says, okay? And then if it doesn't, and it goes along with it, maybe keep some of those ideas and just keep them as floater ideas, okay? But in the book of Jasher, it talks about how they're going to storm heaven at the Tower of Babel, okay? What do I mean by all this and the proof and keeping it as floater ideas and stuff like that? Well, in 2003, when we went to Iraq, the very first day, the opening day, and Tom Horn brought this out with some information. And he told the story and what happened. And after this information, the government burnt his house down for the first time before he lost it again recently. Him and Ellen Marzulli in California, and he had got done with a conference. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and he gets a call, and it's out of Iraq. And they're like, we're listening on the radio over here, and what you're saying is absolutely right about a few different things. We're from the Baghdad Museum, and we want you to look at some pictures and stuff like that. So he's like, what? Is this real? So they give him a number and a punch-in passcode so he can go into the archives of this thing, right? And he's like, okay, whatever. So he re-looks the number real fast and all this. So it's like 3 in the morning. And as he does this, he's like, well, it seems legit. This looks like it's from Iraq and from the Baghdad Museum. So he goes into their website and punches in the passcode they give him and allows him to go into the archives. And what it is the first day that we went to Iraq, us in America here, and Special Forces, Delta, and all this other stuff, and bigwig colonels and generals and things. They go down underneath the museum, and it's looking like Raiders of the Lost Ark, right, with all the crates and stuff like that. And they start opening crates. And what had happened was Saddam Hussein was trying to rebuild Babylon because he thought he was Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated, okay? And they had found a bunch of old artifacts and ancient stuff from way back in Babylonian times, and they had that stuff crated up, all right? And they're opening these different crates up as the teams are going through there, and they got cameras, and they're taking pictures like the whole time. And Tom Horn's flipping through these pictures, and he's like, there's so many pictures you could flip it like a flip book, and it would basically like play a movie. So he's going through each one, and they're opening them up, and they're pulling out helmets of gold and all these other artifacts and things like that, and they're like putting it back. It's like, no, not important, because they're looking for something else. And as they start to get towards the end of this room, there's a couple crates there. And they're big. They're longer than the rest of them. They open it up, and he's like, "There's a serious vibe that comes over the room." They look at it, call over a couple bigwigs, look in there, nod their head, crate it back up, boom, put it on some Chinooks, and then get into some like C-17s and get it back over to America. Okay, so Tom Horn doesn't know what it is, but in an interview that just happened to be coinciding with Steve Quayle at the same time, Steve Quayle comes forward and he's like, I've heard this story before, but I was told what was in the crates. And Tom Horn's like, what? Really? No way. So they divulge it on there, and what they had found was Gilgamesh's body, all right? So we're looking at a Nimrod situation, a Nephilim, the same kind of stuff that I've talked about before with the Super Soldier program. Every time they find these guys, they take them, they tear them apart, they use their DNA, and they put it into other things like that each different time, okay? Not to mention bringing them back to life, recreating new bodies for them so that their spirit, which isn't appointed to judgment until the final judgment, all right, can re-inhabit. They can literally bring these things back from the dead, okay? The other thing they found was the power source for the Tower of Babel, some sort of portal device, and this is where it gets into the connection with the breaching of heaven and storming, okay? Now, back to what I was saying, because I try to complete a full circle when I'm talking about stuff, and I don't leave you off on a straight line that goes in the middle of nowhere. This coincides with what Jasher says, that they were going to storm heaven. So when they have this power source and stuff like that from the Tower of Babel, they find it looks pretty legit that they were trying to open a dimensional barrier and planned on storming heaven and overthrowing God. The stupidest idea that you could possibly imagine. To even consider it just shows the ignorance of the whole thing. But it doesn't end there. Why do you think that we have it now? There's a plan brewing. All right, because evil obviously thinks. I mean, otherwise it would just give up. All right, but it obviously thinks it's going to win. And Satan doesn't care about us, but you guys have heard the saying before. My enemy's enemy is my friend, you know? And if all the bad guys in Washington, D.C. and around the world, deep state and stuff, are going to be tossed in hell, the same like it fires Satan and his minions and fallen angels and stuff like that, you know? There's no problem with working and using people as cannon fodder, even though he won't say that at the time, but he doesn't really care about mankind or anything like that. But they obviously have an agenda and a plan that they think they can beat at with technology and other things like that. And this gets into what I was talking about with that explosion in space. They obviously have some weapons they think that will work against God or against us at the second coming and Jesus and stuff like that. And the armies prepare themselves. And I'm guessing there's going to be Nephilim along with every other sort of creation and abomination that they have in Megiddo, in Armageddon when it takes place to try and overthrow God. And obviously it's folly. Jesus opens his mouth and they get annihilated. They can't comprehend this kind of power. And it's blinded from, I totally believe, but there is definitely some sort of agenda that has going on. Now, why is this important? Why was I talking about how I learned things at a different time? Right after I got to hear this topic be brought up by those two was shortly after that, within like a week or whatever, when the scientists had mentioned that they turned the telescope and they saw this explosion in space. And coinciding with that, and around the same time that I heard Alex Jones talking about what the Air Force was talking about with the antimatter bombs that could take out solar systems and things like that, and it was all coming in at the same time. And this is exactly in my life when I'm hearing different information and things like that, how it will come through. It'll be one thing after another in a perfect order, and it's not coincidence, and it's one thing after another leading to it. And this has been since 21 when I made that prayer. So anyways, I kind of wanted to wrap that up a little bit because I didn't get to divulge into that too much when I made that video yesterday. And that is what I believe was taking place out there. They're doing a test run for some of these weapons and stuff like that. And who knows what they have planned. They might have a last-ditch effort just to try and take everything out at the same time, but that won't work either. But they clearly have some stuff that they think is going to work in this war with God, and it won't. But I believe that's what was taking place at the time, some type of test run. And it's pretty interesting stuff. I've probably gone over this before, but I'm going to say again, when people ask about the earth on pillars and stuff like that, this flat earth stuff, right? And yeah, it does drive me nuts. And it's talking about the same thing over and over again, and people just can't figure it out. All right? To distinguish between a metaphor and what is reality blows my mind that they can't. Honor is very important to me, okay? And honor means everything, all right? And when I explain honor to somebody, I told them the pillars of honor, what creates honor is selflessness, okay? That is where it comes from. Everything that's honorable that has to do with loyalty and doing the right thing all comes back to the pillars that uphold honor in the first place. And what are its roots? What are its pillars? It's selflessness, okay? So when I tell you that, are you going to run out into the world and look for some sort of flat plate of honor somewhere, all right, on pillars? Obviously not, all right? This is a metaphor, and I'm giving you an example, okay? So in the Bible, when somebody reads that, the earth is on pillars and it's unmoving from God's hand, within that time and stuff like that, it is a complete metaphor of how nothing moves from what he's created it or planned it to be within his timeline and how it's going to work. It's absolutely perfect. And that's exactly what it is. And it still blows my mind that people can't distinguish at times when it's talking about physical stuff and metaphors. So I'm just getting out real fast because I just got done dealing with somebody, and the comments just get absolutely ridiculous when it comes to flat earthers, okay? But I just want to clarify that real fast, okay? The Linda Moulton Howe thing, some people have talked before that she's a disinformant. Yes, she is, but she doesn't know that she is, and I do not believe for a second that she is on an agenda working with them for that. UFO hunters and other channels like that talk about that stuff, they're allowed to, but they're not purposely disinformant. They truly believe what they're teaching, okay? Now, at the top that allows them to play these things, that's the agenda they want, because at the very top they know what they are. They're working with Satan and stuff like that, and they keep it a secret. And the levels lower than that, they actually believe that they are aliens and things. So when you hear that different stuff and you've seen the different things, they're not, from what their perspective is or what they know, they're not lying to you, okay? But this can also be disinformation, okay? And there are disinformers that go out there and talk and do the research, and they allow them to sneak stuff out of the Pentagon and talk about things like that so that it will put out a narrative, all right? Because if you're telling somebody it's secret, okay, I'll let you talk, and you do it, because it was so secret, a majority of people will believe because of that it must be real, and that's why they didn't want to tell me. And it's a play to to get you to believe in it in the first place. Discernment is a very, very powerful gift, and it's the ability to distinguish between not what is right and wrong, not just normal common sense, but distinguish between 99% truth with that 1% lie that's hidden in there, that's part of a bait to do that, and 100% truth, okay? And that is what real discernment is, okay? It's the ability to pull that off and look between that, And if it's a gift from God and He shows you that stuff, then you can find that at any time, all right? I constantly hear people say, well, NASA lies, the whole thing's a lie, all right? Does NASA say the sky is blue, all right? And what do? I take this all the way to the extreme to make the point, and then you work back from there, and I leave it up on you, okay? Obviously, NASA says the sky is blue. So does NASA lie all the time? The answer is no, all right? Do I know what they're lying about and what they're telling the truth? Yes, for the most part I do. Do I know that they know a ton of stuff, and they also they segregate it so the top guys know more than some of the little guys that work there at the same place? Yes, absolutely, all right? But it's the same sort of scenario, okay? They're pushing an agenda. I saw it on Buzz Aldrin's face when he was secretly kind of pushing for the flat earth thing, and it was killing him inside, because what him and Armstrong and them wanted to do the whole time, and I can see the disappointment on their face, was to tell the truth about what they actually saw up on the moon, on the structures and stuff like that, and they couldn't. They weren't allowed to talk about it. It all started becoming top secret right from the start, and it was even NASA itself that started pushing that space was fake. That's where it was all originally coming from, was from them. And it was to discredit and leave in confusion so you don't know what's real in reality, because the whole thing was to be hush-hush the whole time, okay? And it's been tons of disinformation, but there was lots of things going on, including them having the nine platform launch pad that was down there in Brazil, because the Earth rotates faster at the equator, and they were using it as for payload launches to go up there and try to leave cargo up on the moon, because they were going to base it up there, and then the whole thing stopped. And the reason why is because of the massive amount of aliens, demonic activity and stuff that's taking place on the backside, and there's tons of structures. They've got the whole thing hollowed out, and it's just crazy. And like I say, when people see the whole alien thing take place, and the abilities they have and what they can do, and the places they've been, coming from fallen angels and stuff like that, yeah, it's going to be pretty mesmerizing, and it's going to totally deceive people. And you have to have a certain level of understanding before you can even start to appreciate. Like I say, we can only comprehend so much of God to appreciate it, but when we get up there, and we have so many more mental abilities and things that do, we're only going to appreciate even more when we understand we couldn't even have had a clue. And now that we know that, he just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's so massive. He's so powerful. It's so incredible, And you have to be at a level to appreciate that in the first place. So, yeah, with the whole alien thing and NASA and the lies and stuff like that, yeah, they lie about tons of stuff, but you also have to tell the truth, and this is where discernment comes in. It's not 100% one way or another. Neither is it with Satan, all right? They'll tell you just enough truth to get you hooked, and then the lies come in, okay? And that's what they do, and that's how the whole thing works, okay? I try to bring out all the truth that I possibly can on the channel. You guys know I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to, there's no money involved. I don't monetize. I have nothing to do with that. All this is just free information. I'm doing it because God gave me the information from when I prayed when I was younger, and He answered it, and I was only asking for myself. I didn't know that I was going to use it, especially as a witnessing tool and to teach other people and stuff like that. And the goal is not to just tell people. It is so that they can take this information and use it so they can help witness and bring people to the Lord, and especially their families. If you can't get out there and talk to other people, at least try and work on your family. It's so important. We're at the last minute. That's kind of why I wanted to talk today, because, just sitting here thinking for a second, it's like, I really don't have that much time. The way things look and how close it is, I don't know when it's going to be up, and I don't know how long this stuff will last or whatever, but if I can still plant any seeds that are going to last in people, it's going to make a difference, especially for those left behind and stuff. I want to do it, do as much as I can. At least I could say that I tried, but it comes down to you. You're going to have to walk that line, and it's that personal relationship that you have with God. That's why I'm telling you guys to always read the Bible every single day, and making it a commitment to do this and to pray, and you're going to watch things open up. You're going to watch your intelligence, and I know that it's possible, because just about the time I lose hope, I end up talking to a few people in the comments that actually get that, and I watch them fold this blade and start surpassing people that have been Christians for 30 years, stuck in their position, and they're just blasting right by them and their information, their knowledge, and what they know, and throwing out the false and keeping the truth. And it's incredible, and it gives me hope. It's like, no, some people are getting through to it, and that makes it worth it. It really does. And there's other times when you can see it on my face. I have a huge frustration because I don't believe this is my calling. I was called to be a weapon, all right? I want to destroy evil. I look forward to it being expunged from the earth, especially at the second coming, right? That's what I look forward to. And this, is I like to talk to people in person, but not where I'm throwing out information. It's this important to the world and all the phony believers and stuff like that. They don't even deserve to hear this stuff, and yet on this platform, they get to. And it kind of bothers me because I've always been kind of a secret person, and I find somebody who's worthy and honorable, and I'm like, I'm going to share with them. I'm going to give them more stuff than they could possibly imagine. I'm going to give them a whole wrapped up present. And on this channel, it's being scattered abroad, to people that don't even know what to do with it. It just gets thrown to the wayside, and they go to the Rob Skibbas and other false teachers. They're dragging them to hell, and they don't even realize it, and they probably won't in time either. So it can be very frustrating at times and stuff. Just a few words I wanted to get out. Like I said, I was thinking about some stuff, and I want to divulge into that explosion that happened out in space and stuff like that. And I absolutely believe they have a plan in this area. One more thing that just came to mind that I want to talk about is that they closed down CERN for 2 years. Okay. CERN, I absolutely believe, is where the fifth trumpet will take place. It's on the old temple of Apollyon, the demon fallen angel that is going to be over those creatures that sting you during the tribulation, okay? Through the calculations to the Holy Spirit, they're showing me when I did the mathematics of this, working my way back from those two trumpets, trumpet 5 and 6, which lasts for a year and a half, a month, a day, and an hour, okay? If you work your way back from when the seventh trumpet is, just after the halfway point of the tribulation when the two witnesses go up, you get to the 2-year mark when it starts, okay? So the fifth trumpet, when the abyss gets opened up, is at the 2-year mark. I've been saying the whole time, this looks like the year and the way the calculations go with Nibiru and stuff like that. If it's true, and I can't get a total beat on that, but if it is, and it looks like it is because of the uptake, earthquake, and stuff like that, there could be validity to it. And the tribulation starts this fall. World War III, Gog and Magog will happen this summer, and the rapture is weeks or maybe a few months away, okay? Knowing this and the calculation with the stuff, once it starts, all right, that the 2-year mark, the fifth trumpet's opened up. How long is CERN shut down before they turn it back on, or why do they shut it down? They shut it down so they can give it more power, all right? What are they trying to do? Open up portals. I find it interesting, and not a coincidence, most likely, that they shut it down for 2 years, because this will line up perfectly with that, too. And I'm going to leave it at that, okay? Just a few things I wanted to get out. I'll talk to you guys next time on The Unleashing. God bless. Bye.